Happy November, Ram fans. Welcome back to another week of CTV Sports. I'm Ella Fredrickson.
And I'm Mike Walsh, and here are your top stories for the week.
CSU Football aims to rebound after a blowout loss to Boise State on the blue turf, gearing up for another formidable Mountain West foe on the road.
CTV feature reporter Madeline Davis and our very own Ruby Kaiser break down the upcoming volleyball rematch between CSU and San Jose State.
And Out of Pocket returns as two unique names go through and select the high school football playoff bracket.
All that and more on CTV Sports, which starts right now. Oh, Jesus.
Although it hurts to start on such a bad note, let's view it as getting the ugly out of the way. Over the weekend, the Green and Gold took the trip north to Idaho in an attempt to beat Boise for the first time ever. Coming into this one, it was known the Broncos would be a tough competitor, sitting at the top of the conference, beating everyone in the Mountain West who has stood in their way. And what better way to take on the top team than with a new roster and a ton of walk-ons, 11 to be exact, all of which were playing in critical points during the game. Now, to end the suspense I'm sure you're all feeling, CSU went down big time, putting the Rams at an even 2-2 in conference play. Now, like the loss against Utah State not too long ago, the goal is to not only find some positives, but also to break down the negatives and ways to improve. Now, the final nail in the coffin during this entire game for CSU was Boise's rushing game. It was evident that they had control of that field the entire time, ending with 321 yards on that field in just the first half alone. It seemed like whenever Boise was able to get into the red zone, they pushed their way through. Once they passed that 20-yard mark, it was evident that they were going to get another 6 points, whether CSU liked it or not. Boise was going to break not just one tackle, two tackle, but pretty much every single guy who tried to stop him on the field, he was going to get past. Now, in this one, redshirt freshman quarterback Green just started 3 weeks ago for Boise, but still managed to go 24 for 30 on his passes. But fortunately, CSU did see a bright spot from Clay Millen here when he actually had room in the pocket, believe it or not, passing 4 sacks earlier in the game. He was able to launch one to freshman Justice Ross Simmons and actually get some points out of this one that weren't from Boyle. He went through a route right between two Boise defenders and was able to sneak past a tackle for 6 points. Now, Green came through with this one for Boise, ending with 305 yards. Now, I would love to see this kind of consistency from a beginning quarterback for CSU, but unfortunately, it's just not happening for Millen. Things in the first half were kept relatively under control, only down 18 at the break. So thus far, the 27.5-point underdog Rams were covering the spread. But regardless, that would soon change as it was clear Boise owned this game from the beginning. By the time the clock had struck 0, the Broncos managed to destroy the Rams in every single category, almost doubling their passing yards. And, well, when it came to rushing, CSU left with just 3 in comparison to Boise's staggering 209. The Broncos would keep 7 in the box, and Fort Air Raid still decided to run the ball even when outnumbered. And as sarcastic and passive-aggressive as this may sound, putting 10 points on the board is not a bad accomplishment when you only manage 6 first downs. I can't say I was surprised. I mean, given CSU's reputation this year, going into undoubtedly the toughest road environment in the Mountain West against arguably the league's best team was not a recipe for success. CSU will pack the bags again this week, traveling farther west to California for a date with San Jose State late Saturday. But enough with football. Mike, how did we stand in volleyball?
Thanks, Ella. Well, let's just say CSU Volleyball had an outing that made Ram fans a little bit happier than football, reciprocating Thursday's 4-set win with yet another one this past Saturday against Fresno State. The match was a hard-fought one throughout as the score was tight in just about every set. However, the Rams shined when it came to closing out sets, whereas their opponent, Fresno State, just couldn't record those crunch time points. Veteran leader Sierra Pritchard was a force on both offense and defense, accumulating 43 assists and 14 digs. And of course, we can't forget about the front line of Kennedy Stanford, who muscled 16 kills, while her counterpart, Karina Lieber, registered 4 blocks. And granted, Fresno State is bad, like really bad. sitting dead last in conference with 0 wins. So the Rams may not have had the cleanest match, but hey, a win is a win. And considering that, let's take a glimpse into just how close this one actually was. As we analyze the box score, you can see that the Bulldogs actually bested the Rams in almost every section, finishing the game with 3 more kills as well as 2 more assists and blocks. However, the Rams did finish with more digs, and nevertheless, these Fresno State's numbers illustrate that maybe the stats don't always tell the full story. But the Rams now look ahead into a new week featuring most notably the league's frontrunners, San Jose State. Thursday's clash is a must-win for CSU as the Spartans will charge with a season sweep on their minds. But more on that later in the show. Now let's transition back to the outdoors. Ella, how did Sarah Carter and company race on Friday?
Yeah, Mike, I'll add to that good news, as cross country placed second in both men's and women's races at the Mountain West Championships up in Laramie. The top 14 finishers in each run earned all Mountain West honors, and with a second place showing, that yielded a lot of Rams to receive that acknowledgement. We'll start in the women's 6K, where Lily Tomasula Martin paced the squad at just over 20 minutes. Annabelle Stafford was just 1 second behind her at 10th overall, and Carter wasn't too far behind as well, clocking at just 6 seconds beyond Stafford. The flurry of these performances accounted for 61 points as a team. Meanwhile, redshirt senior Thomas Chaston led the way for the men at 23 minutes and 41 seconds. Mason Brown followed suit at 7th right behind him, and 4 other Rams would round it out from 11th to 14th, with times literally as close together as you can get. The herd was real, and it contributed to 47 points total. The cross-country season is flying by, and the NCAA Mountain Regional is nearly above the horizon, just 2 weeks out. We'll see if Colorado State's 2 national rankings can help in that, because it did for this one. But Mike, let's head back to the court. Is it already basketball season?
Thanks for that quick update, Ella. And well, it's not quite in full swing yet. The first game is quickly approaching. CSU men's hoops played another exhibition this past Friday and looked as ready as ever for the upcoming season, beating Metro State by almost 40 points. The Rams were fierce in this one, and although it was just an exhibition game, we saw our presumed starters get big minutes. Players like John Tanjay and Isaiah Rivera looked solid and seemed to cash in buckets from wherever they wanted. But a huge key in this one was the post presence. Guys like James Moores and Patrick Cartier used their size to corral rebounds and force themselves closer to the net. And yet the Roadrunners did keep a pace, but as the game progressed, CSU simply put their foot on the gas and they never let up. And despite it being a preseason matchup, Ram fans all over should be encouraged and excited for the upcoming season. With the leadership of some of these veteran players, Colorado State could definitely make some serious noise once again. And speaking of the start to the season, let's see how the early slate stacks up. 8 slots in, and we already know Fort Collins will be buzzing, starting with 3 straight games at home before traveling all the way to Charleston, South Carolina to participate in the Shriners Children's Charleston Classic. And just 6 days after that, it's back to Moby for another 3 before heading down to Boulder for a highly anticipated rivalry showdown with the Buffs. And tune in to CAC's closeout on Thursday night for an even more detailed preview of the Rams basketball on both sides for the 2022 and 2023 campaign.
And now for a team whose run is officially over. Rams soccer ended its disappointing season in what else but disappointing fashion last Thursday, giving up a season-high 4 goals in a shutout loss to Wyoming. Suffice to say, the Cowgirls were a handy draw, sitting atop the Mountain West Conference. But CSU faithful were surely expecting a bit more, especially for Senior Day. Of course, the Rams surrendered a lot of goals, but the main issue was CSU's inability to capitalize on offense. Though the pressure was there, consistent saves and covering plays by the defense stifled any attacking chances, leaving the Rams frustrated and annoyed. It was a chippy contest too, with Wyoming racking up 11 fouls. But in the end, the aggressive scheme boasted well. The loss was certainly a downer, but it didn't take away from the team camaraderie this group has built during the course of this season. Rams forward Caroline Lucas reflected on this following the match. Listen in.
I definitely think the people that I've met here at this program, we just talked about it in our huddle, and I don't really think any of us are going to remember the wins or the losses necessarily, but, you know, the family dynamic that we have here, they're just some of the best people I've ever met, and I know that I've made friends for life.
That's good to hear, especially with the way the last couple of months have panned out. And expanding on this, senior Elise Evers had some words of advice for the new class that'll come next year.
I'd say just persevere, go push through, work your hardest, and control the controllables. Definitely effort's a big thing and something that has been a theme for us this season and something that we need to stick to.
We sincerely appreciate their tenure as Rams and to all the other seniors on the club and wish them the best post-graduation. When we come back, it's all or nothing for CSU Volleyball's Mountain West Crown hopes as the Rams set to battle San Jose State this Thursday in round 2.
Plus, we'll recap the Front Range's Game of the Week in high school football. All of that and more right here on CTV Sports.